You know, I've never met any creepy elderly person that I could think of. I've seen some examples of them, like Peter Griffin has a neighbor on Family Guy that is really, really creepy. He's always after his son, and he whistles when he talks about popsicles. He's always inviting young boys to his house. That's some creepy stuff right there. I mean, and in real life, I've met creepy parents before. Like, I've gone sleep at my friend's house, you know, and met their dad who was kind of creepy or whatever. I've had some instances like that, but never really creepy grandparents. Apparently, Spooked knows about two of them. He's going to tell us about them today in some grandparent horror stories. Make sure to subscribe to him, guys, and let's get into this video. All right, creepy grandparents.
Me and my little brother were staying with my mom's grandparents for the weekend.
Okay, so
We
great
didn't see them much, but we heard that Grandma's dementia had gotten worse.
Oh.
When we talked with Grandpa about it, he told us that she could forget basic things like who we are, but she was
Right.
keen on seeing us.
Okay.
But he also warned us to lock our room door by 10 p.m. and to not go downstairs in the middle of the night, as Grandma
Sure.
also started having episodes where she would sometimes wake up and go around the house.
And she could be unpredictable.
It was a lot to process,
Yeah.
and I felt a little bit bad for her.
Of
But I guess that
course,
was just
man.
part of
Dementia
aging.
is horrible.
One night, I stayed up with my brother till around midnight, and I had completely forgotten to go to the bathroom.
Uh-oh.
I had to pee really bad, so I figured it wouldn't be too bad if I just went downstairs to the bathroom and came back up for a short amount of time.
Unless Mimosa...
I wish it would have been that simple though. When I went downstairs, it was really dark.
Of course.
Because my grandparents lived in a very remote area with no streetlights.
Well, an older house,
I
too.
quietly crossed the living room and made it to the bathroom. I didn't see Grandma anywhere.
Good.
So I figured she was probably upstairs sleeping.
You know she's around, though.
But
She's lurking.
as I was in the bathroom, I could smell the odor of fresh cookies being baked. I opened the door.
Mama, you
and I
making
could hear
cookies at
Grandma
this time of
now,
night?
humming from the kitchen. I crossed the living room.
God.
And as I
That's
did,
kinda creepy.
I saw Grandma in the corner of my eye.
She's got a
standing
gun?
in front of the oven in the kitchen. She was standing completely in the dark.
Mama.
Her face illuminated by nothing but the oven light.
Mama, you making cookies?
I slowly approached her
Are
and
you-
noticed she was indeed baking cookies.
Why you got a shotgun in your hand, Mama?
Hey, Grandma, I don't think it's the time to bake cookies.
You should
I
have just
said.
went back upstairs,
She
cuz.
suddenly snapped her head towards me. I immediately froze. But then she just looked back at the oven and proceeded to take out the cookies from the oven,
Okay.
completely ignoring me. Then
Just
she
go get
abruptly
Popo.
says, "Will you please get in the oven to clean it? You have such small hands."
No!
I could tell from her eyes that she was in her right mind.
No! She
I
was
was
out
both
of it.
in shock and scared, so I was paralyzed, and I didn't know what to say back.
Run up and
Before
go
I
get
knew it,
Popo.
though, she rushes towards me and grabs me by the wrist, yelling frantically.
Oh my
saying,
god.
I need to get punished for not cleaning the oven. Her
No!
grip was somehow so extremely tight that it hurt. She pulls me to the
Wow.
oven, and as she opens it, I somehow break away from her tight grip and sprint back to my
I mean,
room
she was
and lock
elderly.
the door behind me.
Thankfully, you could
My
break
brother
free.
looked at me in shock, asking me what happened. I just
Mama
told him
is
to
crazy.
stay quiet and turn off the lights.
My mom went crazy.
From there, we both remained as silent as possible. I tried to make out any sounds in the house coming from Grandma, but the
Right.
sound of blood rushing in my ears was too
Well, I
loud.
guess so. Could you
As
imagine
I
how
managed to calm
scared
down,
you'd be,
though,
bruh?
we didn't really hear anything else, and somehow fell asleep after a couple of hours or so. The next day, I told Grandpa about it,
Yeah.
and he drove us back home.
Wow.
It was incredibly awkward when I asked Grandma what her deal was yesterday, but she didn't even remember baking cookies.
Of course not.
I have to admit, I was pretty traumatized by Grandma.
You gotta
who
think,
literally
though,
tried
man.
to force me into a burning hot oven.
People that's
Usually she
out
was
of it
really
like that.
calm and slow, and I didn't even know anyone her age could suddenly be that strong.
Right. It's adrenaline. Sleep deprivation, which is pretty serious, can do some stupid stuff to your mind too. And I've
My
seen
parents
people
sent me and my
have some
brother
very
Alex to our
violent thoughts about
grandparents for the
stuff
week.
like that. You know,
They lived out of
Totally
state,
out of character.
so we only visited them about twice a year.
right?
They had a really nice house,
That does
and
look
me
like a
and
very
Alex
nice
loved to go
house.
there.
It's kind of
So
old
when we
looking, but
arrived,
cool. You know.
we had fun for a couple of days. Grandma would bake cookies, and we go out hiking with Grandpa.
I love cookies.
One day, though, we heard the doorbell ring,
Duh.
and Grandpa and Grandma welcoming someone in the house.
Okay.
It was pretty uncommon for my grandparents to get people coming over, but I figured it
Well, they
was
have friends,
probably
I'm
their
sure.
friends.
Yeah. My
We
grandparents
eventually
did a
went
lot of
downstairs,
visiting.
and saw my grandparents in the living room having coffee with this young man.
Okay.
He looked to be in his 20s and had a really slim figure.
Maybe
he had a clean comb-over haircut and dressed like he was in his 50s. They were all seemingly having a good time.
Right.
Ah, my favorite cookies in the world. Thank you, Carol. You always know how to treat me, don't you? He said, as Grandma set down a tray of fresh-baked cookies from the kitchen.
Right.
Who is that? My brother asked me. I said I was equally as confused as him as to what was even happening.
Friend of the family?
Grandma invited us to join them and introduced
20.
us to the man, whose name was Alfred.
Okay.
I asked him what he did for a living, to which he said he was in accounting.
Ah.
As I asked him this,
he's their CPA?
He seemed to be a little bit uncomfortable, as if me and my brother being there caused him to go a little more stiff. Then he said that it was a pleasure and that he needed to go. He thanked my grandma for the cookies for the third time and left.
Right.
When he left, I asked Grandma who he was. She said that he was a good friend that checked up on them 2 times a week, and they chatted over coffee.
Huh.
Me and my brother thought that this was all a little strange, but we didn't think too much of him as the days went on.
Where'd you meet him, Grandpa and Grandma?
On about Wednesday nights,
what I'd be asking.
me and my brother were in the attic watching a TV show. We usually like to stay up all night, so this night was no exception. As we're watching, my brother says it's snowing, and he goes to the window. He told me to come look, and I saw the snow from here.
Right.
But then he said, "No, I'm serious, come look. I'm not talking about the snow." I go to the window,
the dude's
and
outside?
for some reason I see Alfred, just standing there in the darkness, looking at the house from a distance. Me and Alex look at each other, knowing there's definitely something up with this guy.
Yeah.
He stands there for about 10 minutes before he starts walking back to his car
exactly are you
and
trying
disappearing
to
into
do
the night.
With my grandparents,
We wake up the next morning at around 11 a.m. to laughing from downstairs. We go to the living room, and sure enough, it's that Alfred guy again. Alfred didn't see us yet, and neither did my grandparents notice that we woken up.
Right.
My brother told me to keep an eye on Alfred as he went to the bathroom.
Okay.
I took it a step further by hiding behind the doorway. My grandma was in the kitchen, presumably making cookies for Alfred.
Right.
So it was just him and my grandpa.
Dude, Alfred's on that
Grandpa
cookie
then gets
diet.
up and goes in the kitchen to get something. That's when I see Alfred get up and pour some sort of powder into Grandpa's coffee. Alex comes down and I immediately tell him what happened. We decide to both enter at that moment and say hi to Alfred. While doing this, Alex pretends to accidentally spill Grandpa's coffee.
Ah, good plan, good plan.
Grandpa comes in and tells Alex it's fine and that he should get some towels in the kitchen.
Thank goodness.
As he does, he signals to me that he's gonna call the police when he's done cleaning.
Yes.
I stay in the living room.
Well, these boys are smart.
The whole of Alfred. A couple of moments later, I hear my brother open the front door and the police step in.
Thank goodness.
They see Alfred and immediately grab him and force him outside into their car.
Nice.
A police officer lingers and he explains that he actually matched the description of someone they were looking for before.
Really?
And whether my brother saw him poison Grandpa's coffee or not didn't even matter, because they had the right to arrest him anyway. Later that day, we were informed that he was apparently a viager, meaning he was a buyer of the house, making a series of payments for as long as my grandparents were alive. This meant that he was waiting for my grandparents to pass away, so that he could take ownership of the house.
So he was trying to kill him.
The police suspected that he wanted to poison my grandpa first, then a couple of months later, my grandma.
Right.
So that he could take ownership of the house without continuing to make the payments he had to make each month. Whoever this guy was, he was definitely on the sociopathic spectrum.
I guess so.
I remember even the way he was so charming. It was all superficial and cold-blooded.
So terrible.
But I'm glad me and my brother intervened at the right time.
Wow.
And kept our grandparents alive.
Good job, kids, man. God dang, that is some sinister stuff, huh? The lengths that people will go through to do things to take advantage of other people. Just get a job. Dang, just go make some money. Do something. Killing the people for their... Oh... That's horrible, bruh. Good stories, though. Spooked, man. I love them. Make sure to go subscribe to Spooked, guys, as well as a couple other Spooked reactions that I've done. Thanks so much for watching. As always, this is Zueljin signing off. We'll see you next time.